All right, welcome to week 6 of our football preview show. I'm Bob Strickley, and with me is Cody Leist. It's been a great year of football so far. It's hard to believe that we're over the halfway mark. And if we want to go back and look at last week, there was some pretty good halfway through the season action. Let's start with the game that you covered, Chillicothe at Portsmouth.
Yeah, it was a very interesting game just to sit in the box up there over at the Coliseum. Both teams going into the game 0-4. Homecoming night for Portsmouth. They were really desperately wanting this win. And although 3 turnovers, they go in, they're now at 23 for the season, which is an astonishing fact right now as it is. But 3 turnovers is what Portsmouth had. They still came back and had a very big fourth quarter, came back in overtime and won 34-27. It was a very entertaining game, I thought, in my opinion.
All right, and then Jake Doro, our new sports writer here, a stringer if you want to call him that, went to Manchester at East and covered that game, and it was a 46-31 result with 2 players going over 110 yards rushing. That was a great game for East. They're now 4-1 and are looking to start the SOC slate this week. Now, the other game that you covered, which was a Saturday game, was Fairfield Christian against Notre Dame, and it was kind of a low-scoring affair.
It was something that you don't see every day. Opening kickoff, Kevin Lewis takes the ball 80 yards to the Fairfield Christian 7. 2 plays later, it's 7-0. We're only 45 seconds into the game, and then that's all the scoring there is in the first half. That was the mind-baffling thing. Third quarter, Notre Dame gets a field goal, makes it 10-0 going into the fourth. Fairfield Christian gets a touchdown, but the PAT, the snap is muffed, so they couldn't get the touchdown, the point after to make it a 3-point game. So it was mostly a running game. I mean, Jacob Milani was over 225 yards rushing in the game. He was a workload because the passing game for Notre Dame wasn't working. They were 1 of 7 for 4 yards. That's you don't see that in high school ball too much.
If I remember correctly, Milani had 41 carries. So the yards per average probably wasn't too nice, but the total yardage was pretty impressive. I'm moving on to this week's slate of games. I'm going to be at West covering West and Minford, and that'll be the opener for the SOC 1. And that's going to be or SOC 2, correct? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a pretty decent game between 2 teams that came down to a 3-point difference last season. Anytime you talk to an opposing coach to West, they always talk about matching the physicality and the size of West, and that's exactly what Brent Daniels said, and I talked to him earlier. Schaefer, Coach Schaefer for West, same old. He even said so himself. He's like, I know I'm a cliche machine here, but it's all about consistency and doing what we do best, and that's what run the ball with them. They've got a loaded backfield. They really haven't slid any from losing Pendleton to Michigan State this year. They've got Auger and Bricker, who have both picked up the slack where he left off and combined their rush for almost 1,100 yards this season. So that'll be an interesting game, and make sure to check online immediately after the game for scores and follow our Twitter updates. Now, Valley and Waverly, what do you know about this game?
This is going to be a test game for Valley. Next week they host West. If both West and Valley win, it's going to be 6-0 versus 6-0, a chance to win chance to take over the SOC 2 outright right there. Valley coming in, talking to Coach Darren Crabtree earlier this week, he said that they're going to be relying on Luke Keller. He right now is at he's 8 yards shy of 700 yards rushing for the year. We're only 5 games into this season, folks, and that's a really interesting stat. You just sit there and you're like, 700 yards. You're trying to get 1,000, and he could probably have 1,000 yards if he stays healthy by maybe week 8, depending on how they do against Waverly.
And then the other game we're going to have for you is Berg and Northwest. And that'll be Cody covering that one. That'll be an interesting game between a team that only runs the ball basically in Northwest and a team that's struggled slightly in stopping the run in Berg because of their youth.
Mm-hmm. Again, Luke Keller from Northwest, that's going to be the main feature back. Going into Wheelersburg, you got Alex Shears. Let's see how this is the first time I've covered them since the Ironton game, so I want to go in and see how they are. The receivers such as Austin Hall, and a couple other guys, I want to see how they've improved since they were able to play week 1 against Ironton.
Well, in this particular game, if there was fantasy football in high school, I would take Luke Brown just because the matchup is favorable for him. But thanks for tuning in for our Week 6 preview show. Follow our Twitter updates online. We'll have those posted on the Portsmouth Daily Times website. Here's to some good SOC action this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Bob Strictly, and with me is Cody Lice.